A younger man told me that before he got married, which was in the beginning of the Mems, he wrote to the Rebbe a shaila. We know that the chosen is forgiven for all his averas, but you have to do tshuva. So he wrote to the Rebbe asking, what is the inyan of tshuva? Exactly the wording I don't know, but something like that he wrote. And this is what the Rebbe answered him. Inyan ha-tshuva mevuer, charota gemura v'chulu, ve'ad la'avedes Hashem besimche ke'hachesem b'igeres ha-tshuva. The inyan of tshuva is explained, that it is complete regret, etc., till serving Hashem with simcha, like it says at the end of Yigeres HaTshuva. Now, when you talk about the end of Yigeres HaTshuva, b'pashta, it means the last Perek Yud Beis. But Perek Yud Beis talks about V'tam ha-simcha b'yisurei aguf. The reason why a person could be besimcha or should be besimcha when he has yisurim chas v'sholem, when he has suffering. And he goes on into the inyan explaining how you could accept the yisurim ba'ave besimcha. So when this bocher, the chosen, got this letter, he was a little bit nervous, because the Rebbe is like hinting to him concerning that you have to accept yisurim besimcha, something as if that's going to happen, chas v'sholem, etc., etc. So he spoke to a mashpia, and the mashpia said, yeah, bepashtes, when the Rebbe writes the end of Yigeres HaTshuva, it means Perek Yud Beis, and there it talks about this. So yeah, you got to look into this to see how to be mekabel yisurim besimcha. So he wrote back to the Rebbe. First he wrote, was maitig the loshen that the Rebbe wrote to him. Inyan ha-tshuva mevuer, charota gemura v'chul v'ad la'avedes Hashem besimcha achesem Yigeres HaTshuva. And he asked the Rebbe, did the Rebbe mean the end of Yigeres HaTshuva, meaning Perek Yud Beis? And then he also wrote to the Rebbe what the mashpia said to him. So the Rebbe, on the words that he quoted, the original letter of the Rebbe added, when it says that the Rebbe wrote, Til Avedes Hashem besimcha ke'achesem Yigeres HaTshuva, so the Rebbe wrote these words he added, Shehi besimcha Rabbi Kenal, that is with a lot of simcha, great simcha, V'kama pa'omim, underlined twice, and many times, which seems to mean that this inyan, that tshuva has to be besimcha Rabbi, is written in many places, many times. And then, on the words that he asked the Rebbe, if the Rebbe meant Perek Yud Beis of Yigeres HaTshuva, the Rebbe crossed out the word Perek Yud Beis and wrote Perek Yud Aleph. Because in Perek Yud Aleph, it also talks about doing tshuva besimcha, and that's what the Rebbe meant as the chesem, the end of Yigeres HaTshuva. Not the Perek Yud Beis, which seems to be talking about Yisurim, etc. And then when he wrote to the Rebbe what the mashpia told him, this is what the Rebbe wrote. Yishaluhu, you should ask that mashpia. Al pi zeh, dash, hayim ledaitei, v'chein melamedes talmidov, the words v'chein melamedes in parentheses. Keshekeisvim inyan hatshuva, the word inyan hatshuva underlined twice. Hakavone, and then in parentheses, lei eich loshuv, elo, end of parentheses, lelimud tam v'chulu, and the word lelimud is underlined. The yedi'eni tshuvosei. To translate, the Rebbe said, write to him, ask the mashpia, according to what he says, does he really think, and in parentheses, and this is how he teaches his Talmidim, that when you write the word inyan hatshuva, and the Rebbe underlined it twice, because the Rebbe's lashon in the original letter was inyan hatshuva mevuir charota gemura v'chulu, that if you write the word inyan hatshuva, does he think that it means not how to do tshuva, but to learn a reason for something? Because in Perek Yud Beis is giving a reason how you could accept Yisurim B'Simcha. That's not what Inyan HaTshuva is. So how in the world did he even think that when I wrote it, I meant Perek Yud Beis, which talks as a reason for Simcha by Yisurim? When I wrote Inyan HaTshuva, does he really think that that's how he teaches? That when it says Inyan HaTshuva means not how you do tshuva, but means the learning of a reason, v'chul, etc. And then the Rebbe said, the Yedi'eni Tshuvasi, let me know what he answered. So he went back to the mashpia, and the mashpia told him that's not exactly what he meant, etc., etc. And he wrote this back to the Rebbe, that the mashpia explained himself that he didn't mean that, but he meant whatever, that the tshuva should be b'simcha, etc. Recently, I heard from the famous Pesach Rav Gavriel Tziner, who, by the way, is one of the main reasons why I say these Zichronos, because 2 years ago, at the Yar Chakala, he was ma'ater me that maybe I should record or write down these Zichronos that I have. So I listened to him and I started doing it. Anyway, he told me recently that he knows a person who comes from a Chassidus family, not a Lubavitcher family, but a Chassidus family, who never went off the derech. And then he met a lady who also was similar to that, also from a Chassidus family. And they were ready to get married. and they decided they're going to go to the ale first. So they went to the ale, and from the time he went to the ale, he became a different person. He became frum, he became completely different person. The lashon that Rav Tzina used to me was that he's nepach leish acher. He knows him, he became completely different person. So he asked him actually, lately, mamish, a few weeks ago, he asked him, what happened? How did this happen? So he said, I don't know. But while I was b'el, I was neseider with such a hiseider as tshuva you can't imagine, and he changed completely, and now he's a real from a younger man. Bichlal, we know that when we get lekach and Erevim Kippur, the main thing is amisl beten lekach. You should ask for lekach, and the reason is because just in case there was chas v'sholem gzeira l'mayla that this person should have to beg during the year, he should be yetzer with begging for the lekach. So Dinyan is asking for lekach. But by the Rebbe, when you stood in line, you didn't ask for lekach, you stuck out your hand, and that was the way of asking. They say that in the first years, people did ask for lekach, but the line became very big, and it would take too much time. I don't know if that's so, but that's what they say, and that's why it started that no one actually, with his mouth, verbalized this, I'm asking for lekach. You just stuck out your hand, and that was the way you're asking for lekach. But I remember once, I was standing in line, I think this was Tov Shin Chof Ale, Erevim Kippur, standing in line to get lekach, and right in front of me was Reb Mendel Kunin. He's Reb Shlomo Kunin's grandfather. His name is Menachem Mendel. He was named after a Tzemach Tzedek, and the way they said then, that he was born in the lifetime yet of the Rebbe Marash. So the last Rebbe who was Nistalik was the Tzemach Tzedek, and he was named after the Tzemach Tzedek. And he was already an old man, and he was standing in front of me. When we got to the Rebbe, I saw when he walked over to the Rebbe, he tells the Rebbe he used to speak very loud. So he told the Rebbe, midav doch beten lekach, betich lekach. And he stuck out his hand. What he said was, Rebbe, it says that you have to ask for lekach. So I'm asking for lekach. And he said it in such a voice. And the Rebbe looked at him, gave a smile, and gave him a piece of lekach. So it looked like the Rebbe was happy that he actually asked for the lekach. But the way he said it was a special voice. Rebbe, midarf doch beten lekach, betich lekach. When we refer to the previous Rebbe, we use the lashon der Friedrike Rebbe, which means the previous Rebbe. But I want to mention it's not so simple, not so poshut. Because the Rebbe many times spoke about the that one Rebbe is the Mamala Mokim of the previous one, and the lashon Mamala Mokim is a lashon of the Gemara. And the Rebbe touched Mamala Mokim means he fills up his place. That the word Mamala means full. Full means it fills it up completely. So whatever the previous one was, he also has. So he has everything of the previous one before him, plus he has his own inyan. Now remember, in the early Chofs, in more than one Fabrengen, when the Rebbe mentioned this inyan of Mamala Mokim, that you fill up the whole place, and whatever the one before him was, is him too, the Rebbe added, Bis in ichaychet zu nutzen dem Loschen der Friediker. So you can't use the Loschen, the Friediker, the previous one. Which means, Bapashta, that when you say previous one, it means the previous one is better, he was before, that's what some people might think. But if he's the same, that means he fills up his whole place, and whatever the previous one was, he's also, then you cannot use the Loschen, the Friediker. And it seems, Take, that in the earlier generations, that Loschen wasn't used. I'm not sure, but it seems like in the time of the Friediker Rebbe, they didn't say on the Rebbe Rashab, the Friediker Rebbe. The Rebbe used to use the Lashon, the Rebbe Nishma Seiden. The Elter Chassidim also never said the Friediker Rebbe and the Rebbe Rashab. When they used to talk about the Friediker Rebbe and the Rebbe Rashab, they used to say the Lashon, the Rebbe der Tate and the Rebbe der Zun. But I don't know if the Lashon, the Friediker Rebbe was used. Even going back to the Alter Rebbe, I think at the time of the Mittler Rebbe, the Alter Rebbe was called the Alter Rebbe. And the Mittler Rebbe was called the Rebbe. Then by the Tzemach Tzedek, that Tzemach Tzedek was called the Rebbe. The Mittler Rebbe was called the middle one because there were three, was the middle one. And then the Alter Rebbe. I don't know how it was in other times, but I don't know if they used to do the Lashon the Friediker Rebbe. I think it's only by us that we use the Lashon the Friediker Rebbe. But what came out from the Rebbe, that to use the Lashon of the Friediker is something that has some kind of nekuda that's not so real, because it really is a mamala mokim. The Peil Mamish, for some reason, even though the Rebbe said it a few times then, it didn't catch on, and people continued using the Lashon the Friediker Rebbe, and that's how people use. And we know Chassidim They say the Rebbe said this once, so Mistama, there is a reason why we use that Lashon, and that's how it stayed. People said it even in the front of the Rebbe, use the Lashon, the Friedrich Rebbe. But I want to say there is something here to think about, that we shouldn't think that the one before is the Friedrich, the one before means greater than one, but really it's not, it's all the same meaning, because he is Mamala Mokim, fills up the full place. Bichlal, the Rebbe didn't like the idea that people would grab Shirayim. Used to be that when the Rebbe would finish the Farbrengen and leave the Farbrengen, people would run up to the stage and grab from the cake that was left over in the plate that they put in front of the Rebbe. They also used to do that when the Rebbe would eat the Suda upstairs, in those years where the Rebbe still would eat Yontev Dike meals in the Friedrich Rebbe's apartment. So the waiters, when they would take off the plates and they would take off the Rebbe's plate, they would take the Shirayim, they would give it to other people also. But that was done private. No one really saw them grabbing. But by the Farbrenges, you were able to see that people would just run and grab the Shirayim, to say, grab the Rebbe's, the Mezenes that was left over from when the Rebbe took a little bit of it, and people would give it out to other people also, etc., etc. The Rebbe didn't like it. And the Rebbe spoke about it quite a few times. He spoke about it in the Yuds, which that I don't remember. But what I remember, he spoke about it in Shabbos Parshas Vayelech, which was Shabbos Tshuva Tovshin Chov Beis. And then he spoke about it again in another Farbrengen that same time, Shabbos Parshas Hazinu, which was Yud Gimel Tishrei, Tovshin Chov Beis also, Behemshech. So I'm going to repeat what the Rebbe said in these Farbrengens. In the Farbrengen as Shabbos Vayelech Tovshin Chov Beis, the Rebbe said that there are people who are waiting and counting the minutes when we'll finish the Siches and the Maimorim, which means finish the Farbrengen, so they should be able to grab a piece of Mezenes or grab the water. And they should also be able to give it out to others. And they do it in a way that everybody could see that he is the one that was Matzliach to grab a Kazayis or two Kazaysim or even like a Kesves and even a Chelik Ari. And he is the one that gives it out to others. But mainly he'll fall into the category of what the Pasuk says, Toiv Ayin Hu Yeverach, that person who has a good eye, which means which gives things to others, he is blessed, so he'll fall into that category. And this happens a whole year. Certainly now in these days when a lot of people came here from different places, so then if a person grabs, Shameh Heilig B'Kol HaMedina, so then people will know about it in all countries, because everyone will know some other places that the person who came from there and there, in his place, they'll know that he grabbed the Shirayim and he's the one that gave it out. So the Rebbe says, I want everyone to know that the Seder of grabbing Shirayim was not a Seder in Lubavitch. It's not something that's done in Chabad. The Friedrich Rebbe said, Rebbe the Shver did sometimes do it, give out, but that was only sometimes, and mainly, it became later on. B'kvias, certain things got set up, but it's all started that from time to time we used to do it. But the main purpose was bitnai, that they should add in learning Torah and add in davening. And then the Rebbe said, what's it negeya to me? So he said, if I would be sitting in my room all alone, then mele. So you do things which is not really what Chabad is. But I'm here, I'm standing here, I'm sitting here, and I have to see all this. So therefore, the Rebbe said, it's my obligation that to tell people that without the Tnai that comes along with it, that you have to add in Limud HaTorah and Avedas HaTfilah, this is against the Rotzen of the Friedrich Rebbe. This is what the Rebbe said by the Farbrengen of Shabbos Parshas Vayelech Tovshin Chov Beis. Then he continued this same inyan in the Farbrengen of Shabbos Parshas Hazinu Tovshin Chov Beis, and that will be in the next voice note. Bichlal, very seldom did the Rebbe mention by a Farbrengen the name of a person of our generation. Sometimes he did. The Moshel, in the Farbrengen of Chai Elul Tovshin Lamed Daled, the Rebbe mentioned Reb Shmuel Levitten because it was the end of Shiva from when he passed away. And if I bring in the Yud Tovshin Chav Hei, the Rebbe mentioned that he got the Ksovim, letters, things that Harav Perlov wrote, and the Rebbe mentioned Harav Perlov by his name. But usually the Rebbe would not mention a person by his name. But I want to mention there was another time that the Rebbe did mention a person by his name. And this was in the Farbrengen of Shabbos Parsha Shmini Tovshin Lamed. The Rebbe mentioned then at the end of the Farbrengen that Beis Nisan is going to be 50 years from the Stalkus of the Rebbe Nishmaseiden, of the Rebbe Rashab. And this was Shabbos and Vorchem Nisan, so this was mamash a few days before it. So the Rebbe said that since it's now going to be 50 years from the Stalkus of the Rebbe Nishmaseiden, which means automatically 50 years from the beginning of the Nisias of the Rebbe the Shver, he said of the Frierdiker Rebbe, because it goes over, Yerusha goes over right away to a child, and by Nesias especially, it says it goes over, and especially when he was a Ben Yochid, so certainly there was not 1 second that was mafsik between the end of the Nesias of the Rebbe Rashab and the beginning of the Nesias of the Frierdiker Rebbe. So therefore, it's going to be 50 years from the Histalkus of the Rebbe Rashab and 50 years from the beginning of the Nesias of the Frierdiker Rebbe. So the Rebbe said, and since it's going to be 50 years, is Azevi Reb Zalma Duchman Olav Asholem fragt alle mal sagen, aber Schas es kommt a Jubiläum, darf man sich demonen an sich Jubiläum. This was not long after he passed away. I think he passed away on Ches Oder. And this was Shabbos and Vorchim Nissen. So the Rebbe mentioned him by his name, that since it's going to be 50 years, 50 years is jubileum, it's jubilee, but he used to use that lashon not only by 50 years, but any time there was a special amount of years, he would use this lashon. And the Rebbe said it, I think, if I remember correctly, with the tone, the way he used to speak. As b'shas es kumt a jubileum, darf man sich demonen as a jubileum. When a jubileum comes, a jubilee comes, you have to remind yourself that it's a jubilee. And the Rebbe mentioned who said it. He said clearly, Reb Zalma Duchman Olav Asholem Faktalam Zogen, and it has to be niskorim in order that it should be nisim. And the Rebbe said that therefore it says in Svarim that when certain special times come, you have to make a cheshbon tzedek, a cheshbon nefesh before. Before Shabbos, you have to make a cheshbon tzedek, what happened through the whole week. Before Shemitah, you have to make a cheshbon tzedek, what happened the 6 years. Before Yovel, you have to make a cheshbon, what happened these 50 years before. So the Rebbe said, so therefore, it's right that people should make a cheshbon, what happened to them the last 50 years since the Rebbe Nishmas Eden was nistalik. Those people who were not born then should make a cheshbon the last 20 years, 30 years, or whatever it was. And if a person doesn't want to fool himself, he knows what the Rebbe Rashab expected of him, and he knows what the Frierdiker Rebbe, which is also 50 years from his beginning of his Nesias, what he expected of him. So it has to be a cheshbon tzedek, and the Rebbe said the cheshbon tzedek should be finished before Beis Nisan, even though there was only a few days left to Beis Nisan, before Beis Nisan. And if you don't finish the cheshbon tzedek, you make up your mind that you're going to do it later, and the Rebbe will consider it as if you did it before. So the Rebbe made the whole tumult that we have to make a cheshbon of the last 50 years from the Rebbe Rashab. But what I'm trying to point out is that the Rebbe mentions Reb Zalman Duchman by his name, and he said, Azevi Reb Zalman Duchman Olav Asholem Verzogen, as b'shas es kumt a jubileum, darf man sich demonen as jubileum. And the Rebbe quoted in his name, and the Rebbe made a whole fuss of this jubileum, of this special date of 50 years from the Histalkus of the Rebbe Rashab and from the beginning of the Nesias of the Frierdiker Rebbe. In the Verbringen of Shabbos Parshas Azinu Tovshin Chav Beis, the Rebbe continued in the Geya, the union of grabbing the Shrayim. And the Rebbe said again that this was not something that used to be by Chassidic Chabad, this is only by Polish Chassidim. And even though the Frierdiker Rebbe from time to time used to do this, but it was only bitnai that there should be the Iker, that they should bring a Hisofe and learning Torah, doing mitzvahs, etc. But when you're missing the Iker, then Chas v'Sholem, the Tofel, the secondary thing, is also in this battle. Now, there are some people that I know that when they grab Shirayim, it's not for themselves. It's only for the Teva of Chassidim. It's good for Chassidim to do that. As if he's saying that for himself he doesn't care. He only cares for the Chassidim, B'chlal. So the Rebbe said, I want to say that I also want Tevas of Chassidim. And if I would think that this is good for Chassidim, I would also want it. And the Rebbe continued. There were Chassidim by the previous Rabbeim, and they also needed Mesirish Nefesh, etc., etc., and still, they could have been involved in getting a piece of cake, etc., etc., but they didn't do it. The only time it happened when one chassid, a Polish chassid, came to the Rebbe Nishmas Eden and he grabbed it, but otherwise no one grabbed it. And if I remember correctly, that the Rebbe told over the story that what happened when a Polish chassid grabbed it by the Rebbe Rashab. Could be it was in a different Farbringen. I think it was in this Farbringen. And he said that once there was a Polish chassid that grabbed Shirayim by the Rebbe Rashab, and the Rebbe Rashab told him that in Chabad we don't have the meaning of Shirayim. So he said to the Rebbe Rashab that by us we know that Shirayim is mezake. That means it brings a certain merit. And the Rebbe Rashab said to him, by uns is Shirayim mechayev. Mechayev means it makes you obligated. It makes you more responsible for things. So it's not supposed to grab Shirayim. Now, the Rebbe said, I don't mean to be mevatel something that a Frierdiker Rebbe did, but it has to be with the kavanah as it was there. in this case, we're talking about Chassidische Verbringen, Lubavitcher Chabad Verbringen, and the union of Chabad is to add in learning and to be misamik in learning Torah, Nigla, and Chassidus, and then from Chabad, from the Meichen, from the person's intellect, it comes down to the Midas, first to the Pnimizike, Midas of Chesed, Gvura Tiferes, Chagas, and then from the Pnimizike Chagas, then the Chotzeiniske Chagas, that's the union of Shirayim, but you can't just tamazay grab Shirayim. Some people might think, why am I saying this and I'm offending some people? Especially Shabbos, when everything has to be calm and menucha. So why would I be offending people? In other words, Rebbe said, some people think that, first of all, I'm offending people who give me covet. Why should I do that? And more bedak is, they mean well. So if they mean well, why should I offend them? So the Rebbe said, the answer is, the Pasuk says, Rak eschem yudaiti mikol mishpechis ha'adom al kain, that the Eibishter says, because I love Yidden, that's why the Eibishter gives them rebuke. And in Chassidus it says that the word Yodaiti means love. That means that the Eibishter said it out of love. So the same thing here, what I'm saying it is because I love these people. And therefore I want to pick them up to a high pedestal. They should be in a higher madrege. Before they know themselves also. That's why I'm able to be made on this. And the Rebbe says, but be'etzem I don't want to be meirich even more. And it's even possible that what I said till now won't help. And people will continue grabbing Shirayim. And there's a problem if they really continue grabbing Shirayim. That means that they might not even hear the Maimer. They're all wait the whole time when it'll be finished that I'll be able to, and I'll leave and they'll be able to take Shirayim. So but nevertheless, I'm not going to speak about it anymore, etc., etc. And the Rebbe said, and therefore what he's going to do is now he's going to give after the Fabring and always the leftover mezenes he's going to give for the orchim that are there. I don't remember exactly if the Rebbe mentioned Rav Moshe Yeruslavsky by name, because he was the one that organized the Achnosa Sorchim, where the Orchim would be able to eat. But he meant that, and that's how it happened, that from then on, the Rebbe, the end of the Farbrengen, would give the Mazenis to Rav Moshe Yeruslavsky. And other Farbrengens, when it wasn't Tishri, would give it to somebody else for some reason, but in order not to leave it, that people should grab. Because the Rebbe didn't really want they should grab Shirayim. On the other hand, there was one time where the Rebbe did say something positive about it, and that will be in the next broadcast. Towards the end of the Fabrengen of Shabbos Parshas Va'era, Tovshin Chov Gimel, the Rebbe gave Reb Yankel Katz a bottle of mashke to give out. He was going to Eretz Yisrael, that's what they said then, and the Rebbe gave him a bottle of mashke to take along to Eretz Yisrael, but as always, when the Rebbe would give some of the bottle of mashke to take along, he would always tell him to give out some by the Fabrengen. I guess it shouldn't be a shaila that it's meichim from Shabbos to the weekdays. So you tell him to give it out here, and the rest he should take to Eretz Yisrael. But when the Rebbe gave him the bottle of mashke, this is what the Rebbe said. I heard from Polish Chassidim, why is it that they grab Shirayim from a Rebbe, not from a Chassid? And they said, because by a Rebbe, what is his Shirayim? Shirayim is the leftover. So the Shirayim is the Gashmiyas. The Avivayire, the Ruchnias, he holds for himself. So when he gives out his leftovers, that's Gashmiyas. But the Chassid, the Gashmiyas he holds for himself. The Rebbe said the Kesav Azov he holds for himself. And what's his leftovers? The Rionim Ruchnim, Avivayire. And that's what he gives out. Therefore, Chassidim would rather grab Shirayim from the Rebbe because the Rebbe leaves over Gashmiyas, Kesav Azov, and that's what the people want. Then the Rebbe said, but it's possible also that the Chassid should give Shirayim and it should be also Gashmiyas. It's possible that the Rebbe should give Shirayim and it should also include Ruchnis, which is Avivayire. And the Rebbe said, like we saw by the Rabbeim, Rabbi Seinu Nisienu, that they would give not only Gashmiyas, Brochas for Gashmiyas, give Gashmiyas, also Ruchnias, Avivayire, not only Avivayire Tivim, also Avivayire Zichronos, etc., etc. And then the Rebbe said to him, and though, in other words, in this bottle that I'm giving you, which is basically, he didn't use the word Shirayim, but this is what the Teichem was, und do, bet zayin beide, Sayas Gula for Gashmias, and Sayas Gula for Ruchnias. So here we see that the Rebbe, when he gave it, Bekavon, and he wanted it, there was a positive aspect to it. Behemshech to the voice notes concerning grabbing Shirayim of the Rebbe, which the Rebbe was not so happy about, but on the other hand, sometimes he did say something positive about it. I also mentioned that the Bochrim used to be the waiters and would help in the kitchen by the Sudas Yontiv that the Rebbe would eat upstairs in the Friedrich Rebbe's apartment. So they would take the Rebbe's leftover food and they would eat it as Shirayim and they would give it to others, etc., etc. So somebody who was a Bar Samche told me all the details about something that he saw himself. And this was Achron Shel Pesach Tovshin Chof Tes by the Suda of the Rebbe upstairs in the Frierdiker Rebbe's apartment. The Seder was, as we know, in front was a place set for the Frierdiker Rebbe's place. On the left side of the Frierdiker Rebbe's place sat the Rebbe. After the Rebbe, usually would be Reb Shmuel Levitten, then Rabbi Simpson if he was there, and then the others. There used to be Reb Zalman Teibel, etc., etc. One of the people that was usually invited was Rebbe Churgin. Usually a minion of Chassidim, of Elter Chassidim were invited, and amongst them was Rebbe Churgin. He came once from Eretz Yisrael and he stayed. He was all alone, was Elter Erid, so he was always invited to the Suda. But he didn't sit too close to the Rebbe. His seat was always further down. But by this meal, for some reason, Rebbe Churgin sat right next to the Rebbe. And the one that told me he doesn't know why. Maybe because he came early or they came late and he sat down. The place was empty. Whatever the reason is, he sat right next to the Rebbe. At the end of the meal, they put down apples on the table. The apples were not peeled. They were with the peel. The Rebbe took one apple, took the knife, and cut a third of the apple. And then with his knife, he scooped out the apple from that part and ate it. And the peel, or the end of the apple that was left over, he put to the apple, to the place where he cut the apple, this part from. And if you look from the outside, it looked like the apple was complete. As soon as the Rebbe put down this apple over there, he put it between himself and Rebbe Churgin. As soon as he put it down, Rebbe Churgin grabbed it and put it in his pocket. After benching, the Rebbe turned around to Rebbe Churgin and he said to him, "Do given der Apple? Wer hat genommen dem Apple? The apple was here. Who took the apple?" So Rebbe Churgin smiled. But then the Rebbe looked at him again and as if saying, "Who took the apple?" So finally he answered, "Ich habe genommen dem Apple. I took the apple. I have it." So the Rebbe said to him like this, "Ei birt nehmen dem Apple, was wird bleiben für die, was helfen da und warten auf nehmen dem Apple?" If you're going to take the apple, what's going to be left over for those who help here and waiting to take the apple? And Rebbe Churgin nevertheless did not put down the apple again, did not give it back. So what the Rebbe did was, he took another apple, and again with his knife cut a third of the apple, and with his knife he scooped out from inside, and the leftovers, with the peel, he put by this apple, like he did before, to this apple that looked like a whole apple. And this time, he put this apple, this whole apple, between himself and the Frierdiker Rebbe's place. In other words, before he put it on his left side, between his place and Rebbe Churgin. And this time he put it on the other side, between his place and the Frierdiker Rebbe's place. And you could see that he pushed it away, specially to make sure that Rebbe Churgin doesn't take it. And then the Rebbe left it there and the Rebbe left. So here we see that the Rebbe looked at this positively. He knew that they wanted to take the leftover of what the Rebbe ate from. And the Rebbe made sure that they'll have what to take. That's why he told Rebbe Churgin, if you'll take the apple, what will be left over for those that help here and are waiting to take it? And obviously the Rebbe looked at it in a positive way. So here we see another episode where we see that the Rebbe was positive concerning the fact that you take the shiraim of his food. The night of Chof Tes Elul, Tovshin Chof Beis, which is the night of Erev Rosh Hashanah, Tovshin Chof Gimel, there was a Farbrengen. This was an exception because in those years there was no Farbrengen the night of Erev Rosh Hashanah. Later years, every year there was a Farbrengen the night of Erev Rosh Hashanah, but not in Tovshin Chof Beis. But this was an exception, and it was because there were a lot of Orchim that came, so basically to Mekabel Ponim the Orchim, there was a special Farbrengen that night. We also heard before that by the Farbrengen something special is going to happen. Two things. Number one, somebody was going to bring the key to the city of Kiryat Gat to present to the Rebbe. It was sent by the mayor of the city. And also that they were preparing a stender to give the Rebbe. This was made by Sefer L'Mlocha that he had in Kfar Chabad, the yeshiva, the school that they partially was learning, partially was working, and they worked on making the stender. And we knew that months before they got measurements and the pictures and everything, and they were able to make a stender exactly the way the Rebbe stender was, and they were going to bring it to the Rebbe by the Farbrengen. So by the Farbrengen, Reb Yankov Peles, I think it was, came over to the Rebbe and presented the Rebbe with the key of Kiryat Gat that the mayor sent. And the Rebbe said the whole Sikha in connection to receiving the key. Explained what the union of a key to a city means, Beruchnias. And then afterwards, I think it was Iche Gansberg, if I remember correctly, together with some few more people, brought over, in the middle of the Fabringen, brought over the Stender and presented it to the Rebbe. And the Rebbe said the whole Sikha on the beer of what is the union of the Stender. So I'm going to try to repeat Bekitzer what the Rebbe said, B'Nekeya both. B'Nekeya the key, the Rebbe said that B'chlal, when you give over a key, it has a certain type of a kinyan that gives you a right over something, but that's negeya to the way the minig hamokim, not always the same. But one thing is for sure, a key is to open the door that you should be able to go in and out. Like this, a door is locked, and this opens the door, so you should be able to go in and out. Especially if it's a key to a city in Eretz Yisrael. There's something special in the city, so this has a special value. And what's the union of it? So the Rebbe said the tachlis of every city is to become an ira lekenu, which means a city in which you feel godliness. We know that the city has a lot of things, daimim, tzemeya, chaim, bedaber, all things which all were created by Hashem, but we don't feel it. There's a hell of a hest. It's concealed. Godliness is concealed, and what we have to do is make the city into ira lekenu, that we should feel the godliness that's in everything. But since Mashiach didn't come yet, that means there are still negative things in the world. So we also have to protect the city that no negative influence from the outside should come in. And that's where the union of making a wall is. But on the other hand, you have to also go out from the city to be mekar of other Yidden. You have to bring godliness into the outside too. So the wall has to have a door that you should be able to go out. But the door is not only you should be able to go out in order to bring godliness to the outside, but it also, a door is made to come in. That means that not only should you go out and be mekar of those Yidden and bring godliness to them, but you have to bring them into the city. That they should also become part of the city of the inyan of ira lekenu, that they should feel godliness. And this is the inyan of a key. The key is the one that opens the door, makes it possible to come out of the city of ira lekenu, bring godliness to the outside and bring them in to have godliness inside. But this is also a mashal to the Yiridus and Neshama Lamata. The Neshama comes into this world, which is the ira lekenu, and this place where the Neshama comes down has a wall, but the wall has a door, has a gate and a door, that from the door you go outside into the world, and also you bring dusha there, and you also bring the things into the ira lekenu. And the Eibishter gives keiches every year that he's able to utilize this, to utilize the key, that he is the one that's able to open the door to go out to bring godliness into the world and bring things from the world into the city, into ira lekenu, to bring godliness there. And by doing that in the city of Eretz Yisrael, then this will be the beginning of what it says, that Asid Eretz Yisrael, that is Pashat B'chol Arot, says that the Kedusha of Eretz Yisrael will go out to the whole world, that the feeling of godliness will go into the world. And that's the key that is there to a city. Later, actually, the Rebbe also sent a letter to the mayor of Kiryat Gat, thanking him and giving him the same general idea of what the union of a key is, Beruchnius, to a city. And Benegay, the second thing, what the Rebbe said concerning the Stender, that will be in the next voice note. I heard from Reb Moshe Gertner from London, the son of Rebbe Gertner, who was the Reish HaMareches, the chairman of the editorial board of the Gemaras with the Pirush Chavruse. So he told me he once came to 770, this was in Tovshin Nun Aleph. He came to 770 with a friend of his, Reb Yankel Plitnik. And he was standing outside in the hallway when the Rebbe came out of Mincha. And when the Rebbe walked by and saw him, so the Rebbe asked him how he is, and the Rebbe asked him how his parents are, and he asked about his brother and about his sister. And then the Rebbe asked, who is this other person that's with him? So he said, Yankel Plitnik. The moment he said that name, the Rebbe answered, for this minute, I waited many, many years, and the Rebbe gave him a bracha and gave him a yashakayach. What was this all about? We know that the Rebbe's brother, Rebbe Yisrael Aryeh Leib, lived in Liverpool, and that's where he passed away. The Rebbe didn't want his mother should know that he passed away. So we know that the Rebbe would send letters in the name of his brother to his mother. The way it used to go, she would send letters to Liverpool, to a certain address, thinking that she's sending a letter to her son, Rebbe Yisrael Aryeh Leib. There they would send a letter that she wrote back to the Rebbe. The Rebbe would write an answer and send it back to Liverpool. And from Liverpool, this letter would be sent to the Rebbe's mother. Who was the one that was involved in this? Was the Rav of Liverpool. The Rav of Liverpool was Rabbi Plitnik, the father of this Yankel Plitnik. So when the Rebbe just heard his name, that this is Yankel Plitnik, right away the Rebbe said, this is a moment that I waited for many years. The Rebbe was waiting for many years to be able to give a Yasher Koyach for what they did. Because when the Rebbe's mother would send a letter to Liverpool, to her son, the address was to Rabbi Plitnik. Rabbi Plitnik would send that letter to the Rebbe. The Rebbe would send back a letter as if he's sending a letter, as if his brother is writing it. And he would send it back to Liverpool to Rabbi Plitnik. And Rabbi Plitnik then would send that letter of the Rebbe that she thought was her son, was Rebbe Rav Leibel Shapiro, back to the Rebbe's mother. So the Rebbe was waiting for all these years to be able to say Yasher Koyach. This was for many, many years. This thing was going on for years because the Rebbe's brother passed away Yud Gimel Ir Tovshin Yud Beis, which is 1952. The Rebbe's mother passed away Vav Tishrei Tovshin Chavei 1964. It's 12 years that this was going on, and he was involved in this for all these years because it all went from Liverpool back to New York, etc., and he was involved. And from when the Rebbe passed away till this Maisa happened, that the Rebbe saw this Mr. Rabbi Plitnik, or Mr. Plitnik, I don't know who he is, was in Tovshin Nunal of 1991. So from when the Rebbe passed away, which means when this stopped, was 27 years. 27 years passed, and still it was on the Rebbe's mind the whole time, waiting for this minute when he's able to say Yasher Koyach. So here we see the union of Hakoras HaTov that the Rebbe had, that for so many years he was waiting, didn't have to think, it was on his mind. 27 years passed, millions of people passed by the Rebbe, and as soon as he mentioned the name Plitnik, it came to the Rebbe right away. He said, this is the moment I was waiting for many, many years. And the Hakoras HaTov that he wanted to show, and also shows the union of Kibbut Aim of the Rebbe, that anybody who did something to help his mother, by the Rebbe, this was on his mind, and he's paying back, and had the Hakoras HaTov for that. And obviously this is a lesson for all of us. We know that the minig is that when you come back from a levaya, first of all, you wash your hands outside, and then you come in, and you say Yeshe V'Seiser 7 times. And each time you say it sitting on a different seat. And the way the minig is that you say it up to the posik Ki Maloch V'Tzav Aloch. And the way you do it is the first time you say till the posik, till the word Ki. Then the second time you say till Malochov. And then Yitzavet. That's how you know you keep counting 7 times, because there are 7 words in this posik. And each time when you finish saying it once, you move over to a different seat and you say it 7 times in 7 different seats. But when the Rebbe would go out to a levaya, I remember like this. He would go out and walk behind the Oren. Usually he would walk till across the street and then stop there and see the Oren leave. And then he would come back to 770. There was a kvort prepared with water outside of 770. And the Rebbe would wash his hands on the top of the steps outside of 770. I don't remember exactly if he turned over the kvort or when he finished or not. I don't remember. And then he would walk inside. Now, when he washed the hands outside, it was different than when he came back from the ale. He also washed his hands, but not outside. He would go to the water by the Cheder Shein, by the end, by the library in 770, by Rabbi Chadikov's room, there where you have the sink. He would wash his hands there. But by Levaya, he would wash his hands outside. Then he would walk into 770 and not go into his room, but he would go into the shul. And the shul was empty. Everybody was outside. And everyone knew that the Rebbe is going to come in. So everybody was out of the shul. The shul was completely empty. So I remember standing many times. The Rebbe walked into the shul, sat down on a bench, and was saying something. Probably Yeshe B'Seiser, I don't know. But he was only sitting there for very short time, maybe a minute or two. And during that minute or two, he picked himself up once and moved over, picked himself another time, a few times, not 7 times. For sure it wasn't 7 times. I think for 4 or 5 times, maybe even, about that, I think 4 or 5 times. He moved himself, and this whole thing took only maybe 2 minutes. So I doubt he said 7 times Yeshe B'Seiser. He certainly didn't sit 7 places, but he definitely said something which probably is Yeshiva Seiser, and made his movements moved over from sitting in the bench, moved over, and then another moment, and he moved over again, and then he finished and walked out and walked back into his room. Now, exactly what he said and how he did it, I don't know, but this is what the Rebbe used to do. Concerning how terrible it is to do a cremation, there is a letter from the Rebbe from Dalat Teves Tovshim Mem Gimel, which was an answer to a shlucha who asked the Rebbe what explanation can she give to a son to tell his father, to explain to his father why he shouldn't have his body cremated after he passes away. And this is a very strong letter. And this is the lashon of the letter. The Rebbe says like this: Leharoitze Rachmanu Litzlan sheyisrafu gufei la'achrei hamise. For somebody who wants Rachmanu Litzlan that they should burn his body after he dies, Yashleimar borer bepashtus, you could say clearly and very simply, and the word borer ubepashtus, which means clearly and simply, is underlined. You could say like this: Shelahaguf yesh lekiyum ume'ein chayim gam la'achar siluk haneshama. That the body has an existence and has a me'ein chayim, and the words ume'ein chayim, which means some level of life, that was in quotations, these two words ume'ein chayim, that even after the neshama leaves the body, there is still an existence and some type of life to the neshama. And as long as the body did not rot completely, part of the neshama is connected to it, connected to the body. Anybody who says, who commands, who tells, or at least even agrees that they should burn his body, that's an agreement to burn part of the neshama. Me'ein sreifas odam chai, to a certain degree, like burning a live person. And then in parentheses, the Rebbe says, Elo shalei kule elo chelke, but not the whole person, but only part of him. And in this parentheses, there's another parentheses, and the Rebbe uses the words achzorius me'ein komeyo, a cruelty that there's nothing like it. And then the Rebbe continues, Vafila b'seiref nishmas atzmei rachmanu litzlan, and even if somebody burns his own neshama, which means a person says, I could do it to myself, no one else could do it to me, basically. I'm just explaining what the Rebbe says. But for himself, he could do it. And he justifies himself. That he justifies himself, that he didn't know what to answer to this taina, that other people already did it. In other words, basically, it seems like what he's saying, the person says, you see, other people did it, so it's done already, so I could also do it. And this guy justifies himself that he doesn't know what to answer to that question. So the Rebbe writes, Harei alfei Nazim sorfu anoshim chayim mamish. Thousands of Nazis burned regular life people. And amongst them were scientists and doctors and businessmen and family people, etc., etc. And they did it. That's the end of the letter. But what he's saying is, so someone will say, well, since thousands of cases were done that he actually burned a live person, so someone else could do it also. Same thing here, because people did it, it means I could do it also. But the Nakuda is a very, very strong Nakuda that by doing cremation, you're basically doing something me'ein of shvichas domim, of killing somebody, burning, just like you would be burning a live person to a certain degree. We know that the Rebbe sich stark gekocht in the Torah of the Rogatchover. We know that the Rebbe would bring him by kimat every time he would say an inyan in Igla, he would bring a svar of the Rogatchover. The Rebbe had correspondence with the Rogatchover himself, even from when he was very young. The Rebbe would even visit the Rogatchover when the Frierdiker Rebbe was in Leningrad and the Rebbe was there. He would go into the Rogatchover. That's what they say. So it was very close to the learning of the Rogatchover. Also, quite often the Rebbe in the Sichas brings from Rabbi Yosef Engel, from the Sfarim of Rabbi Yosef Engel, who wrote the Sfarim, Asma der Reise, Beisa Eitzer, Lekach Toiv, different things that the Rebbe brings from Rabbi Yosef Engel. So in the Farbrengen of Achen Shel Pesach Tovshin Lamed Vov, the Rebbe spoke about the similarity between Rabbi Yosef Engel and the Rogatchover, and also in the difference between them. The similarity the Rebbe said between them in their Sfarim is, in the Derech HaLimud of their Sfarim, is that they both look for Inyan Kloli and the Geder Kloli in many, many different inyonim. You can have different sugyas, completely different sugyas. One is a sugya of Momen, one is a sugya of Isur, which are completely different klolim, different gedorim. And one is Agadat, it could be, one is Halacha. Nevertheless, both of them would find a Nekude, which there many, many inyonim are connected to. So they would find a klal that connects many different inyonim. That's side that Ragat Shover did, and side Rabbi Yosef Engel did. Nevertheless, the difference the Rebbe said is like this. Ragat Shover writes much more bekitzer, very, very short. And he also writes ba'ifim kloli. He writes things very general. He doesn't tight choice everything very klolim. He gives out klolim on the whole Torah, many klolim in different inyonim and Torah, but he writes it ba'ifim kloli. But Rabbi Yosef Engel also does the same thing. He finds inyonim klolim in many different inyonim, but not with the same breitkeit as the Ragat Shover. And another thing, by Ragat Shover we find many chidushim, comes up with new ideas in different inyonim. Mashenke Rabbi Yosef Engel, the Rebbe said, even though for sure there are chidushim, but the Rebbe said he didn't find too many new inyonim and new gdorim. Because by Rabbi Yosef Engel, what he does is, he brings a klal, and he brings different places in Shas that fits to one side of the klal, to the other side of the klal. So usually it's not chidushim, he just brings out from different gemaras, which we see the klolim. So he doesn't write chidushim. So the Rebbe says, Le'esata, so far he didn't see so many chidushim in him. He just that he brings out the klolim of the different nyonim. Mashenk the Ragat Shover has many chidushim. So generally speaking, the Rebbe said the general approach is that they're both on the same style, that they're looking for the inyonim klolim that connect many different inyonim, Momen and Isur and Gud Agadet and Haloch and different inyonim. They both look for the Nekuda klolis, for the klolim that make them all together go into the same minyan. The difference is, by the Ragat Shover, it was more breit than Rabbi Yosef Engel, and also by the Ragat Shover, there are many chidushim which we don't find so much by Rabbi Yosef Engel. In Fabrengen of Yom Simchas Torah Tovshin Chavov, the Rebbe spoke about a certain baseball player who made a Kiddush Hashem. His name was Sandy Koufax, and he played in the World Series that year, and he was a pitcher in the World Series, which obviously is something, it's a very choshev position or something. But because one of the games was supposed to be on Yom Kippur, he said that he's not playing Yom Kippur, and he didn't play on Yom Kippur. That made the Kiddush Hashem. And the Rebbe spoke about it by the Fabrengen. And the Hemshech, the way the Rebbe came to speak about it was that first the Rebbe told the story of the Tzemach Tzedek that the Frierdiker Rebbe told, that when he was a child of about 8 years old, he wanted to hear a mimer from the Alter Rebbe, which he couldn't get in, so he went into the oven that was by the room of the Alter Rebbe, and then the guy heated up the oven, and he fainted there, and they found him there. So the Rebbe said this is Mesiras Nefesh, that he went for Torah. And from that we have to learn that all children should be like that. You have to teach them, mechanech them, that they should go on Mesiras Nefesh for learning Torah. And the Rebbe said the first condition how you could pale by a child that he should go on Mesiras Nefesh, if you are a living example, that you learn Torah, and even though had you at that same time that you're learning Torah done more business, you would have made more money, and now you're giving up that money, and you still do it. And you're giving up the fact that if you'll make more money, you would be famous as a big businessman, and you go on Mesiras Nefesh and give it up. And that will be an example for the children what to do. And the Rebbe went on to go into more details, that this person, if you give up a half hour from watching television, and a half hour from reading the paper, and from speaking politics, which the Rebbe said, by the way, you can't accomplish anything anyway if you're speaking. It's only a bittel's man, it's only a waste of time. He might think that he has an opinion of what Johnson should do in Vietnam. And if Johnson would ask him what to do, he would tell him what to do. He even has an opinion how to lower taxes, not just 2%, $2 billion, but $8 billion. And if he lowers it, he'll make money too, he'll gain out of it too. So he has an opinion in this. The truth is, B'mchila the Rebbe said he doesn't know what's going on in Vietnam, and he can't run the policies of the White House. And the Rebbe used many English words when he said this. The White House does what it wants and makes no difference what he thinks. And if a person is mavate, gives up all this, and he doesn't care that people will say that he's old-fashioned and he's from an old age home, and this is the way to show the children that he has Mesiras Nefesh for Torah. And even though that means that he's going to show that he doesn't know what's going on in the world, he doesn't even know what the World Series is. And the Rebbe started telling the story of this pitcher who didn't play on Yom Kippur. And when in the middle of what the Rebbe was saying this, the Rebbe stopped for a second and smiled, and he said, those that don't know what the World Series is, Tovei aleim brocha, let the brocha come upon them. Halavai wollte ich nicht gewusst. Halavai, I wouldn't know myself. And this is what the Rebbe said, that there was a younger man. This young man happened to be Rebbe Shapiro. The Rebbe didn't mention his name. There was a younger man, has a beard, that went to this pitcher that didn't want to pitch in the World Series on Yom Kippur. And when he spoke to him, he said to him, he was excited, and he said, I didn't play Rosh Hashanah either. So the younger man said to him, you know what, I have a present for you. And he gave him a pair of tefillin. So he said, yes, I remember, I know what tefillin is. But he nevertheless didn't want to put on the tefillin. And actually, the Rebbe said that day he lost the game. Then he came to him a second time, and he spoke to him again. And the end was that he did win the World Series. And he didn't put on the tefillin then, but he left the tefillin on the table. So the tefillin is laying on his table. And Sof Kol Sof, the Rebbe said, Val Yidach Memen and Nidach, he will be Zeicha to put on tefillin, and another Yid will be in the category of putting on tefillin. And the Rebbe said, this younger man didn't ask me whether he should do it or not. He did it on his own. And actually the pitcher, the Rebbe obviously didn't mention his name, asked him not to tell the manager about this visit. But Lepeil, this made a big impression on this person. And the Rebbe spoke about it in a positive way, in a positive of what this younger man did by trying to give him the pair of tefillin. And from the Rebbe, it also seemed that he was very happy about what he did, that he made this Kiddush Hashem. The Rebbe didn't say it, but from the tone of the words, you could see, you could have heard then, that the Rebbe was happy that he made this Kiddush Hashem. And then the Rebbe went back to discuss what he said before, that you have to give up on all these things, and you have to have Mesiras Nefesh. So the person has to know that there's no reason for him to speak and get involved in the policy of the United States. It makes no difference. You should know that the world won't be destroyed. The Welt wird nicht chore werden if you do not mix yourself into politics. So if the child sees that this is how you behave, he'll also do the same thing. He will also go on Mesiras Nefesh for Torah. And then the Rebbe continued with another point of Mesiras Nefesh that people should do. He said, when the child brings friends home to do homework, and the Rebbe used the word homework, and even if they do the homework of Limudei Kodesh, but when the friend comes to the house and he sees that the kitchen is not a Hollywood kitchen, and he's going to come home and tell his mother, it's going to be an embarrassment. So the mother, the wife, wants the husband should make more money. So first they borrow money and they pay a lot of interest, and then she pushes him to make more money in order to get a Hollywood kitchen. So a person, instead of that, instead of making Hollywood kitchen, would use the money for chinuch. And if you do have an extra $1, the Rebbe said, in New York, there's a lot in Yonim of Torah mitzvahs that you could do with extra money. So the mother, the wife, should go on Mesiras Nefesh too, and not care about not having the Hollywood kitchen, and care more about the Inyan of Torah. And the Rebbe said that everybody is able to do this, to be a dugma chai to the children, that the children should know that Torah is important, that when he goes after his friend and calls his friend, so he shouldn't call him, let's go play a little bit more ball. He would call him to learn more. Let's learn another piece of Chumash, another Omid Gemara that we didn't learn in school yet, in Cheder yet, that I'll be ready more when I come tomorrow to school. I'll be able to know that already. So by the child, this is a Mesiras Nefesh, even though sometimes this is small things, but it's a Mesiras Nefesh. And how will the child get this Mesiras Nefesh? When he sees what his father does, so he's ready to learn Torah instead of doing the other things, even though he's going to learn Torah about Alta Yidden, Old Yidden, and about Yidden who were in the desert, that never read papers. But nevertheless, this is what is going to be his she'ifa. What he's going to want to do is learn more Torah. And then you will have real nachas ruchni and gashmi from the children, and you'll have a generation that everyone will recognize that these are special children. Concerning what I told over, what happened at the Sudas Yontif of Achen Shel Pesach Tov Shin Chof Tes upstairs by the Friedrich Rebbe's apartment, that one of the people who worked there told a story with the apple. So someone else who was there at the same time tells the story a little bit different. And the Kuda is the same, but he tells the details different. And it's no wonder, because it's over 50 years since this happened, so it's very possible that you're able to forget, so some don't remember, but the Kuda is the same. But I want to tell over the way this person tells the story. The Rebbe sat on his place, which is on the left side of the Frierdiker Rebbe's chair. Right next to the Rebbe sat Reb Zalman Teibel. That's what he says. He was far removed, but he sat the one next to the Rebbe at that time. Across the Rebbe sat Rashag, and next to Rashag sat Rabbi Simpson. Pesach, they used to put down apples for dessert on the table, but no one ever ate it because the Rebbe didn't eat it. But this time, by this Suda, the Rebbe noticed that Rashag was saying something to Rabbi Simpson. So the Rebbe asked, what are they talking about? So Rashag said, he's telling Rabbi Simpson to eat. He's not eating. So the Rebbe said, Ei Bazei, he took an apple, cut off the top third, and from the apple itself, he ate from that apple. When he finished eating, so Rabbi Simpson turns around to the Rebbe and says, if you could have the top third, if the Rebbe could give him the top third. So the Rebbe, like with a smirk, said to him, this is for those that grab it. But nevertheless, the Rebbe gave him the top third. And then the Rebbe took another apple and he put it down on his plate, which seems to be that he put it down for the plate. For those people who want to take, they should be able to take that apple. Now, it's no wonder that it was Rabbi Simpson, because till the Rebbe spoke against grabbing the mezainis from the Rebbe by the Farbrengen, when that really stopped, one of the main people they used to grab was Rabbi Simpson. He sat right behind the Rebbe, so as soon as the Rebbe stood up to walk out, he would run over and grab some of the cake. And then later, when the Rebbe spoke about it, that stopped. So since he did it, so it makes sense that here in this case, he asked the Rebbe that the Rebbe should give him, because obviously he felt that it's a good idea to take shraim, so he asked the Rebbe to give it, and the Rebbe actually gave it to him, but made the comment that this is for those that chap, those that grab. But nevertheless, the Rebbe took another apple and just put it down on his plate. Didn't eat it, but he put it on his plate and he left it on his plate. That's the way this other person says he saw. He says he was standing right behind the Rebbe on the side of the Rebbe's right shoulder, and he said this is what he saw the whole thing. But again, this happened over 50 years ago, so we don't know the details, but the general idea seems to be correct. Concerning the Nigen Yet Yet Yekavo, I would like to tell over what the Rebbe spoke about concerning this Nigen on Yud Bistamus Tovshin Chav Hei, and from then on, this Nigen became a regular Nigen that people know. The Rebbe said that when the Frierdiker Rebbe was in Kastrama, and when he got the idea, notification that he's free, so together with him was Rebbe Chaim. And Rebbe Chaim also got completely mavulvel, and the Frierdiker Rebbe had to calm him down. But when the Michal Dvorkin, who was also in Kastrama, then heard about it, he got so excited that he took a little bottle of mashke, didn't drink from it, but took a bottle of mashke and started dancing around the house where they stayed with this Nigen Rushish, which the Teichon of the Nigen is Ein Neg Milvad, it is nothing but Hashem. And the Rebbe said that Rebbe Chol Dvorkin, was many years amongst non-Yidden, and he got used to using expression and words in Russian, and therefore the Nigen that he's saying, which contains the concept of Ein Neg Milvad is nothing but Hashem, he said it in Russian. And the Nigen is Nyet 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 Kavo, Kromi, and right after that comes the name of Hashem in Russian, Od Navo. But since you cannot pronounce Hashem's name, even if it's in another language, therefore he would say Kromi Yevo Od Navo, which Yevo means besides him, and we know what it means. And he danced with this bottle of mashke, with this Nigen, for a long time around the house. And then the Rebbe said, Mistama, there are people here who know the Nigen. And then other people will learn from them. And the Rebbe turned around to different people, and he asked them if they know this Nigen. And he said, I myself cannot sing this Nigen. He said, if it would have been Simchas Torah, I would have taught this Nigen. And he started singing the Nigen very quietly, under his breath. But the expression that he said, that today he cannot sing the Nigen, he didn't say why not. See, he didn't say that today it's not the time for me to sing a Nigen, it's only Simchas Torah I teach Nigunim. But he said, I cannot sing the Nigen. So we understood that the Pshat is because it was the year of Avelis. The Tovshin Chav Hei, the year of Avelis after his mother, so therefore the Rebbe felt that he couldn't sing the Nigen. But had it been Simchas Torah, which he would have sang the Nigen, that's what it seemed. But Lepeli said, I can't sing the Nigen. And then he asked again, not one of the Russish Yidden know the Nigen? Amodna Amaratzes, it's a strange Amaratzes. One of the people started singing the Nigen, this Nigen. I think it was Reb Handel Lieberman. And the Rebbe said, this is a different girse. It doesn't matter. Soll sein die girse. Let it be this way. The beginning is the same, and the meaning is the same. The tone is a little bit different. And then he said, to smile, he said, you better start singing the nigun, because if you're not going to sing, then I'm going to start with saying the hadran. But he started singing the nigun, and everyone started following. So they sang the nigun. It was almost like it was later found out exactly the way the nigun was, but it was similar, very similar to that, and that's when the nigun started. And from then on, this became one of the regular famous Lubavitch nigunim. So obviously it was a nigun that was known before by some people, like Ramchal Dvorkin, but it was not known by most people. But from then on, this became one of the nigunim Chabad, that from the common nigunim.